Welcome to the Equity.Guru Investor Roundtable. What a distinguished group we have here down in the basement, conniving, scheming, trying to figure out life, trying to make some dough is myself and Chris Perry over there in the basement. We also have a still down here. We're mixing up some stuff. Vishal Vatura is up there in the far corner. Looks like it's getting darker in his office right now. He's a shady character. And then, but you should believe everything he says. And then Galen is directly above us. Hello, Galen.
Hi.
And just for joining us on this edition of the Roundtable, talking today about Plurilock, you get to go first. It's PLUR on the Venture Exchange. They're Vancouver-based, PLUR, and Plurilock is one of the coolest, wackiest, funnest, neatest things I've ever seen in my life.
Well, it's certainly very topical, as it were. We are now in an era where we have 40 or so passwords that we have to keep in memory for different websites, and we are regularly having those websites hacked. For instance, I just got notification recently about another website that I'm a member of, who I am now involved in some sort of data breach.
Investex.
See, there you go. And that would not have happened if they had a system much better than the old password. Even biometrics, in the traditional way that we employ it, is still not a foolproof method of protecting your information or your device. For instance, people take pictures of your face. They can put that in there and it fools facial recognition. The retina scan is, well, it's costly and relatively difficult to actually implement in your industry. Plus, you don't want somebody pulling your eyeball out to break in. So what Plurilock has done is it's actually moved past all of those options and produce something that is really quite interesting. And it's something that they call frictionless authentication. Mm-hmm. What it does is it actually checks a multiple of data points in the biometric spectrum that check to make sure that you are who you are. That could be a typing pattern on your keyboard, how you use your mouse, and time of day, whether you're on the right time or as usual. And what it does.
Number of phone tabs you have open at 11 a.m.
Well, see, yeah, exactly. It tracks all sorts of stuff, and will. And will notify. Hey, settle down. And it will notify security or somebody else who's actually monitoring the situation and let them know, hey, you should be checking up on this, or automatically locking out, however you want it to do this. Now, what I really like about this is it not only checks you on login, it consistently checks you as you're doing your session. So if you get up to have a coffee, somebody else sits down at your keyboard and starts tapping away, it knows immediately that it ain't you and will either raise an alert or shut the whole system down. Now, they've just had some really interesting news, which I know Chris has reported on. Recently, they signed a contract with a company called Absolute, this cloud security company out of India. And what that deal has given these people is the one flaw in their system, as Chris pointed out, is that it really had to be in contact with their own servers to determine whether or not you were the person that was at the table. What this does, this partnership with Absolute, gives them the opportunity, the technical ability to not have to worry about that constant connection, so they can actually provide the protection consistently regardless of the connection process. So it really is the next generation. And honestly, it's gotten to the point now where I actually have a software that takes care of my passwords, and damn it, that ain't good enough. So I'm going to let that go on and somebody else can chat about these guys.
So wait a minute. Absolute. Does that mean when I'm drinking, they can tell how I drink my vodka? Is that how?
Nobody's that good.
No.
Like how I hold my glass? All right, Chris, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Also, what the Absolute deal does, Absolute deals in persistence as a service, right? So if you've got a Fortune 500 company and you've got 10,000 cell phones and laptops and iPads, if your security needs to constantly touch base with home base, then any sort of break in your connectivity is going to be a problem. Persistence, what it does is it detects that there's a problem and then uses alternate means to get in touch with home base. It's not just a Wi-Fi signal. It's the ability of the system to detect that something's not quite right and then to utilize other means of connecting. So this is basically you join that persistent software with the frictionless security software that Plurilock has already got as its IP, and that's a really interesting combination. The thing that was interesting to me when the news came out was that Absolute seemed to be as into its partnership with Plurilock as Plurilock was with its press release about Absolute. The two companies both think this is a big deal, and both talked up the other. Absolute is a $500 million company that has 500 million devices that are using its software currently. So this is a big up for Plurilock, a company that has had a nice steady share chart throughout this year and has banged out a continual flow of new contracts with military, police, government, large organizations, large companies, groups that require more due diligence than you and I could ever do in any 200 years, have approved and done business with Plurilock. That's a pretty big deal to me. My due diligence is good, but it's not as good as the US government, I would think.
What's happening? Go ahead, Vishal.
I was going to say, I had a quick question for Chris here. So we've seen a lot of deals, with corporations and with government. Could this also be something that could be applied for, the consumer like you and I, their technology? Can it be brought down to that?
So the last time I talked to the CEO, I asked that question, and he said, absolutely.
There we go.
But right now, the growth pattern for them is, hey, you go for the highest level that you can achieve.
Right.
So they've managed to get that trust with large security conscious groups. So that is where right now there's a dearth of options, and they can charge a premium.
Yep.
When they do business with a government organization, you're getting paid. The invoice is not going to get argued about. It's going to get paid every month. And if you're sticky enough software-wise, if the process is working, they will never end that contract. So you've got that deal for life. Consumers are going to call you up and complain that you charge me $22 instead of $21.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to call support and say, I don't know how to make this work with WhatsApp. It's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
So there'll be a consumer option, but that will be once they've plateaued out a little bit more on these big fish, which they seem to be just hooking left and right.
Or they let the company that buys them for $1 billion handle it.
Well, that's the other thing is in order to go consumer, you need to really expand your sales network.
Yeah.
Whereas right now, these guys are just like going in and grabbing big chunks one at a time. There's an expense in setting up that consumer business that takes a few years to get back. So they're just going for the thing that's going to bring them the highest profit as quickly as possible.
And you mentioned the CEO, Ian Patterson. What are the charts doing, Vishal?
So Rob, as Chris mentioned, the stock started off with a bang when it IPO'd. We hit highs of 85 cents, and since basically, I'd say the beginning of the year, from January 15th till where we are now, we've been sort of ranging quite a broad range, though, from 45 cents here up to 85 cents. The stock tested 45 cents back in June, and July saw a nice pop there as well. There was actually, I think the last time we spoke about these guys, there was this pattern here, head and shoulders, that we were looking at, and since that happened, the stock did hit highs of 75 cents, which also
September 22nd was our
September
last.
27th. So it was, I think, that was a bit okay. That was before the that was after the earnings. So I think we called it maybe right here at that retest, September 27th, and we went up to hit highs of like 66 cents. You can see what I've drawn here. This is the technical term is like a wedge. So it's not a proper triangle, but like a wedge shape here. And essentially, price is just bouncing between both of the wedges, and it's getting constricted, which means it's going to break out one time very soon. And we're hoping it's this way, obviously, to the upside. In terms of where we're heading right now, actually, we closed at 51 cents. So close to the 50-cent level, which, again, quite an important psychological zone for these these type of stocks, or something priced under $1. So I'm looking forward to see how we react at 50 cents, but it is really close to a pretty big support level here at 45. So I think in the next few days or weeks here, I think we'll see some buyers around here, a lot of buyers, and that's going to give us a chance of a good entry opportunity. If I take a look at the historical data, There was big volume here on the 3rd of November, actually, 433,000 shares. So that was just a few days ago. So let's look for volume to pick up, and let's look for some sort of basing or range here to give us an indicator that buyers are stepping in to defend this 45 to 50 cent zone.
And actually, I lied. That was the wrong date. We were actually right in between the October 13th when it was down to 45-ish, right before it went back up to about 49-ish.
There we go.
All right, we're coming around the horn, and it is Galen with how much money he wants to spend out of $7,500 that he has available from me.
Well, it's an interesting prospect. They just finished raising, I think, $4.6 million, and really, at this point, it seems that the roadway is paved for these guys, at least within the scope that they've picked, which is, as Chris was mentioning, government organizations, military, and I really think that's a sweet spot for these guys, and I think they've got enough legitimacy and rep right now, cred, to actually carry it a lot farther than they are. So you know what? It looks like this might pop. I'm going to take it to 7,500.
Woo! Wow! Can I get a
up? Does that work?
Give me one of those. A
Okay.
TK. He's not here today, but yeah,
right.
that's it.
Does that one work?
When you go the full bomb, you gotta throw it out there. All right, Chris, what do you got?
Dude, like if you go through the news releases for this company, I think people focus on one thing at the expense of another. They look at Plurilock unit receives $111,000 order, Plurilock receives $195,000 purchase order, $208,000, $185,000. And I think a lot of investors look at that and say, yeah, those numbers are fine. But you got to finish the sentence. Receives $208,000 US order from the US Navy, receives order from the US Treasury, receives order from NASA, from the Air Force, from Symantec. Like, these are VMware, Earthsoft. These are large companies. SOCOM, for fuck's sake. Generally speaking, a little company on the security software side, when they sink a new order into their system, they don't have permission to mention the company name. So those we get like US company does purchase order. You're getting permission to mention the fact you're doing business with NASA and the US Navy and the Air Force. Like, you've gone well beyond just doing business. You've received approval to put them in your press release. This is a big deal. So they're not just like selling to, Bob's Insurance of, Sahoki, Washington. This is some of the biggest groups you could possibly worry about security with. Plurilock is helping out. Plurilock is helping with security, getting spaceships in the air and landing things on aircraft carriers. Like, right? I mean, you don't want to happen. I'm saying my mind would, not the aircraft carrier. So to me, I look at this and think any company that comes along that has a big bunch of cash and that wants to be in this area and wants to be exposed to those groups, which generally take 5 to 10 years to get in with, the quick way to become a vendor for the US Air Force is to buy Plurilock. And at a $30 million valuation right now, I'm surprised it's taken this long, to be completely honest. For anyone to come along and say, let's make a $60 million offer to take out Plurilock, and instantly on your customer list is the US Air Force, the Navy, the Treasury, NASA, SOCOM, Symantec. Like, that's a $60 million deal right there, regardless of what the company even does. So someone's going to come along and take a big old chunk out of these guys. They're not going to partner. They're going to say exclusivity is worth the money. So I'm always looking at, if I invest today, what needs to happen for me to double my money? And for a company that might be in this area that's worth $1 billion, a lot of heavy lifting has to happen to get to $2 billion. For Plurilock to get from a $30 million valuation to a $60 million valuation is one big guy coming along and either licensing their tech to blow it up big time, or just saying, yeah, here, check for 60 mil. We'll take you off the table, and everyone gets a double. So for me, especially with this chart looking the way it is, right? Because right now, you're not looking at necessarily a low, but you're definitely looking at a dip. And we're always saying buy on the dips. Well, here it is. This is the dip. right? You had to go back only once in the last 9 months has the price been lower than it is today in any sort of significant way. So to me, take your 7,500, count it all out nicely, make sure you haven't forgotten any, slide it across the table to the broker and say, PLUR, thank you, sir.
Nice.
There we go.
By the way, don't discount Bob's Insurance in Sohoki because Tina, the sales rep there, is phenomenal. All right, go ahead, Vishal. We got everything going out the door right now.
There's a story there, Rob.
Here's a story.
Stock is rising.
$7,500, Vishal, from everybody.
Yep.
But you maybe.
Maybe I might. I think I'm going to go about 3 to 5K on this one. Again, I like the security play. I like the contracts coming in, and I think the future is bright on these guys. I just have my money in, I guess, other places. I guess this is my way to diversify out of commodities. But I do, I think a lot of positives there. What I want to see though is I want to see some signs of basing here. I know Chris and Galen obviously are approaching this with a longer term view, right? The long-term hold investing. I would like to just see some sort of signs here that the buyers are going to be coming in. I would put my first, let's say 1,500 around here, and I'll add 1,500 more on the break of say 55 cents, given that we find some support and bounce here, and we also take this 55-cent level here. But yeah, I do find it, the news releases, you can't really say much about that. I mean, it's great news. And I do find it interesting to see if this is a takeover candidate.
All right, there you go. Not bad. We're throwing, I got 22,500 in my kitty, and a good portion of that is going towards Plurilock on this occasion. Well done, gentlemen. Chris down there, Vishal up there, Galen up there. I'm Rob down here. Make sure you do your own homework. Make sure you do your own research. Cannot guarantee results based on previous performance or by what we tell you. We're going to tell you anyway, but do your homework. That's it. It is PLUR, PLUR, on the Venture Exchange. CEO Ian Patterson, based in Vancouver, Plurilock. We'll see you next time on the Equity Guru Investor Roundtable.